How important is privacy to you?
Our Fourth Amendment protects us from any and all unreasonable searches or seizures without a warrant, but there is speculation that the government goes too far and crosses the line from constitutional to unconstitutional.
We dug deeper to see how far some Americans feel is invasive to their fundamental rights.
What are your views on domestic terrorism? Are you knowledgeable of it?
Somewhat knowledgeable of it. We have domestic terrorism going back, since the 1900s, pretty much. We have, major concerns today. Obviously, it was after 9/11, but real prevalent one. I think we tend to forget is what happened in Oklahoma City, which was a clear sign of domestic terrorism.
What countermeasures can the government take to prevent a pending extremist attack?
Hopefully, they are given access to enough information, and I guess our intelligence apparatuses are well enough to be coordinating with each other. I think the Department of Homeland Security, the point of it after what happened in 9/11 was to the FBI and CIA coordinate things domestically, and the NSA also to gain information hopefully somewhat legally.
Yeah. Do you support the increase in government agencies going to extreme measures when it comes to protecting us?
I think we tend to have some overkill when it comes to extreme measures. It's we already have through the policies and through the courts. We've gone through and made sure that we have those measures in place. So I don't think they have to go to extreme measures. Again, though, I don't know what extreme measures they've gone to. We haven't had a large-scale domestic terror attack. So I guess they're doing their job effectively.
Do you believe our Fourth Amendment is being breached by government agencies?
Well, when you see things that happen, illegal search and seizure, I think the point now with the advent of all electronic and media that we've had and the advances we had, it's really hard to understand what they've collected and what they haven't collected and what we may have given them, but they may have illegally searched and seized, especially when we look at with Snowden and the NSA.
How has the internet and social media changed terrorism in today's society?
I think it's given people a larger venue to let their thoughts known. We do see that networks have popped up every now and then, but again, it's also been helpful from an aspect of figuring out who's doing what and when they're doing it for us maybe to prevent those things.
How far is too far for the federal government?
Well, when it comes to domestic terrorism
Yes.
and their ability to monitor and regulate people's communication, personally, I guess it's situational. I think the one thing we're going to have to remember, everybody has to remember, is the Supreme Court's going to be the one who makes the decision on how far is too far. Congress can write the laws, and they wrote the Patriot Law that gives them a lot of surveillance options and really kind of a lot of freedom, maybe too much to some people. Personally, I think it's probably going to be left up to the courts. I think they will make that decision. Supreme Court, that is.
What threat does domestic terrorism pose to the average American?
Well, I think the threat to the average American is pretty much like any other threat, It's out there, and we have to be aware of it. We have to be vigilant. We have to all be paying attention. The average citizen needs to realize that they probably, if they're paying attention, their tips could stop things. So people should be aware that they need to report anything that they see, and just keep their eyes and ears open, because we know that helps and prevent, and it's already prevented numerous attempts when it comes to attempted domestic terrorist acts here.
Do you think the NSA and or any other intelligence agency is protecting us from domestic terrorism?
Yeah, I definitely think they're protecting us. Again, the question of do we feel like we want to give up those liberties to let them do that is kind of another argument all in itself, but definitely they're doing the job. They've prevented quite a few things. Now, we have had some incidents, we've had some terrorist attacks, so they haven't been 100% successfully. They're doing their job, I think, so.
And then one last one. Should we average Americans be threatened by the breach in our personal privacy?
Well, I think we should be paying attention to the different incidents where people are reporting that, maybe a private citizen was surveilled when they didn't need to be, or anything that makes somebody question. But then again, that again is why we have the courts, and that should be brought to their attention so that they can determine whether or not the government overstepped its bounds, and then penalize them if they did, or provide a reason to us why they think the government should be able to do that.
How do our political leaders feel about this issue? Let's find out.
Do a quick yes or no answer. Start with you, Mr. Beverly. Do you think that the government should have the ability to try to find a nexus between a foreign connection and a business record in the United States that will indicate the identity of someone who may be working with a terrorist organization by query into a phone bank? Is that something the government should be able to do to protect its national interests?
Absolutely, I believe so.
Mr. Baker?
I agree.
Mr. Vladeck?
Unless there's an easier way to do it, as long as there are enough protections, sure.
What Ronald Reagan used to say is
Trust but verify.
Well, he used to say that, but he also said what we really need is a one-armed economist, because they're always saying on the other hand. So maybe what we need is a one-armed professor or law. Right. So you do believe that it's something that we should be doing. You may have some disagreement on how we do it.
Well, so Mr. Chairman, I think there's an analogy that I don't mean as anything more than a superficial analogy to how many people feel about the death penalty, right? There are many people who are not anti-death penalty in principle, but who can't abide it in a form where there are so many concerns about the manner in which it is implemented, the manner in which it is enforced.
Comparing this to the death penalty, I think, is
no, but I'm just saying. I think the process of
it skids on the.
I'm not trying, and I wasn't trying to say there's a substantive analogy there. I'm just trying to say I think the process points. It's impossible to separate if the substantive validity of the program from the process concerns that have been raised by plenty of members of Congress and members of the public. And so I think until we have some better sense and some better grasp on those process concerns, I think it's a bit unfair to have to answer the substantive question in the abstract.
Oh, but it's not abstract. You think we should have the ability to do it or not? I didn't say how to do it. I just said, should we have the ability to do it?
But I think the way we do it matters.
Well, clearly it matters. And being effective matters too. Would you not agree with that?
100%. That's the whole point of the process.
We can make up 5 things that we want to apply to the program. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Agreed.
And I would argue that maybe the fact that we haven't had any complaints come forward with any specificity arguing that their privacy has been violated clearly indicates, in 10 years, clearly indicates that something must be doing right. Somebody must be doing something exactly right.
But who would be complaining?
Somebody whose privacy was violated. You can't have your privacy violated if you don't know your privacy is violated, right? Can you?
I disagree with that. I think if the tree falls in the forest, it makes a noise whether you're there to see it or not.
I want to thank you all. We apologize for the quick shrift that you received today. Important comments all. As you all know, we're trying to get this right. We want a robust debate. We want to have transparency and oversight and civil liberties protection that still maintains the ability for us to protect ourselves. We saw what happened prior to 9/11 when we walked away from those principles, and we paid a heavy price for it. We're going to hope that we do this right. As Churchill said, he loves America because they always do the right thing. After trying everything else, we may be in that process of trying everything else. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So why would an intelligence agency feel so inclined to search our private data?
Well, to list only 6 of them, here's a list of domestic terrorist attacks. Domestic terrorism is the committing of terrorist attacks in the perpetrator's own country against their fellow citizens.
The Boston Marathon bombing, Sandy Hook, and Columbine. All of these examples of domestic terrorism are supported reasons that the government feels the need to pry into citizens' private matters.
So why would it be beneficial to track our data?
Well, it protects us from potential terrorists by being able to see what citizens are saying to other citizens.
The point is to prevent something before it happens. No one wants another Boston Marathon bombing. One was too many.
Do we have any other laws to protect our private data from government intervention?
According to ICLG, there is no single principal data protection legislation in place.
So what does it mean to be an American? It means that all amendments are available to the person and the government does not cross the line to become unconstitutional.
It means they can't look at our information. They can't look into citizens of the United States phones, keep the information, and just move on. It's unconstitutional.
To be an American means to have the right to your property and without government intervention.